All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Highlighted in All Sports Culture podcast. I'm Kurt, your host for today, and we have Sam joining us. No Sully again. It seems to
What?
be
Where is he?
a trend here. Hopefully, you're watching this, Sully. But Sam is back. We're going to talk some NBA. We're going to talk about some NFL, and I think that's going to do it.
Yeah, it's been like a slow news week for everything except for, the big thing that happened with the NBA. But
Right, which we'll get into. But just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of what the podcast is going to look like for the next couple weeks or months. That's the plan for now, is we're going to now switch to 2 episodes a week. We think that's going to be the plan.
hey,
We're going to do with that those shorter episodes. I think we're going to do like 30-minute episodes. This one's only going to be like 30 minutes long.
hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see though. Instead of kind of having it like 1 60-minute, we thought that 2 30-minute would be better, especially with NFL starting up in 2 weeks. We want to give you guys more podcasts to listen to. Maybe we'll focus on like a specific sport or a specific moment in those podcasts instead of like an overall view. So that's the plan for now. We still plan on posting our podcast to YouTube and Apple Podcasts. But other than that, I think that's it from the standpoint of what we look like for the next couple months.
Where's the love for Spotify?
Spotify will also obviously be on.
There you go. I'm a Spotify guy.
You are? I'm an Apple Podcast guy.
That's tough. That's tough.
Well, if you are listening to this, let us know what you're listening on. So,
Of course.
but with that, we get into our first topic of the day. The NBA, obviously, it was a crazy thing that's just transpired over the last couple of days. So with the Jacob Blake shooting that happened in Wisconsin the other day, the NBA, a lot of uncertainty on if the league would continue, on if it would finish, with obviously it starting with the Milwaukee Bucks not playing against the Orlando Magic in their first round matchup. And they were doing, they were willing to consequence the loss and take a forfeit to support, the social and racial injustice that's going on in our society today. And then obviously teams followed with that. There were no games being played that day or the next game or the next day. But now recording this, it's Saturday night. So the NBA just returned today. Got some teams going in the second round, but wanted to just talk about or at least bring up what's been happening in the NBA. So Sam, is there anything you want to talk about or get us started with this topic?
All right. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Bucks fan. I've been from Wisconsin my whole life. So I've been to Kenosha a ton in my life, and it's crazy times. It's crazy times right now. And, I feel like there was discussions with the Raptors and the Celtics about potentially sitting out. I know Fred VanVleet and others were bringing it up to the media that they were thinking about boycotting the game, but the Bucks just did it. And I don't think any other team really could do it first than the Bucks, because, it's in the Bucks' backyard. It's 45 minutes north, and I think the Bucks doing that, it was unexpected to a degree because no one else in the league expected it. Apparently, George Hill, leading up to the game, he was very outspoken about how he was just mentally not there. He was very distraught by all this happening, and he was listed as he wasn't going to play because it was just weighing on him that badly. And he didn't bring up anything to his teammates beforehand. He didn't even want to bring it up because he didn't want that pressure put on his team to be like, I'm just going to do this, but if you guys aren't, and then peer pressure and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then once they actually got to the arena, there were people that actually got there, team members that were intending to play. So when they showed up to the arena on Wednesday, there were players that were intending to play, and they did their regular warm-ups. But then when they went back to the locker room, they were just, I would assume it's George Hill and Sterling Brown. And Sterling Brown, for those of you who don't know, he's actually been a victim of police brutality, I guess you could say, and racial injustice about 2 years back, and because he parked in a handicap spot when he walked into a Walgreens for 5 minutes and he got tased and kneeled on by 7 cops. So he's been a part of this before. So there's actual motive behind these guys, and they have reason to, have their viewpoints. So it kind of just had a ripple effect, and then they just ultimately decided we're going to boycott this game. And they didn't intend for it to be a giant league-wide shutdown. They expected it to be a forfeit, like you said. And, the Magic were never going to accept that. You kidding me?
Yeah.
And the league would look bad if they let that happen. So with all they've been saying. So then, all the games got shut down. And then there's this meeting that we hear about. And this meeting sounded nuts.
Yeah.
Like, have you read about the reports?
Oh, yeah.
Like it
supposedly ended like terribly.
Yeah. Apparently everyone was like ganging up on the Bucks apparently because they were mad that they just kind of did it spontaneously and didn't have a plan after, even though their plan always was, we're just going to sit out this game because we don't feel ready and we want to send a message. I mean, their message worked. They got a police reform bill passed by Wisconsin legislature the other day. So it worked, and they were just going to keep playing. They intended to always keep playing. That's what Woj said. And, teams like the Lakers and Clippers, they just decided we want out if nothing's going to come of this. Because, the bubble, they had those predetermined negotiations, like with Black Lives Matter on the court and all the messages on their backs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say this. It's not really protesting if you're allowed to do it, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, another one of these shootings happens and you're just like, what can we do more than what we've already agreed upon?
Yeah.
So they ultimately decided to stay playing. And I mean, as basketball viewers, that's great. We love watching basketball, but some things are just bigger than that. And obviously the players recognize that, and they made the best decision they could. Did you think the league was gonna?
I did. At some point, I really thought it was gonna happen. I think kind of just as time went on, you realized, like, I think that it is gonna the league's gonna come back. But there was a certain time during the whole process when I was like, I do think that the league's not going to continue. I just think that, especially from the meeting that I saw, hearing that the Lakers and Clippers were willing to just, like, obviously when they walked out of the meeting, it was just crazy. And I thought that nothing was going to get resolved. And I thought that as an end result, the league would just continue. And I think that their message would be kind of just, if you're not, no one's going to listen, then here's, I guess, our message that we present to you guys. So that's kind of what I thought. I thought that it wasn't going to happen. But as time kind of went on, and then obviously the meeting that happened at 11 a.m. the next day, they ultimately decided that they were going to continue playing on basketball. And like you said, from a basketball and from a fan perspective, I'm very excited to have the NBA return. And I think that the decision that was ultimately made was the best decision when you take everything into consideration.
Yeah, the platform that they'll have, I feel like, is bigger than if they just went back to their cities and fought for whatever they believed in there.
Right.
And I think the players realized that. I just think that they were frustrated as hell on that night, and you could definitely see it. And the reports seem to indicate that. Like, apparently Pat Bev, like, cussed out one of the NBA PA's like lead. I forgot her name. It's like Michelle Roberts or something.
Yeah.
Like, emotions were definitely high. That's for sure. And apparently I'm glad, obviously, that it's back. And but whatever they decided, I honestly thought basketball would be back just because of, the platform and everything like that.
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have been shocked if it did end up getting folded. But you know, they fought so hard to get here, and they wanted to keep the combo in the limelight while they were down here. So I knew the league would make it work out because they were losing so much revenue as is from this year, and they can't afford to lose more, especially without seeing the playoffs through. But that should be it. You know, Bucks take a stand. Good for them. Fight for what you believe in. That's the message everyone should take from this.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, I think that's all we can cover. I think that's kind of it.
That's basically it. Just it's just a hard topic to discuss, you know.
It is.
It shouldn't be, but you know. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
So
we are now to go back to sports, or like specifically on sports.
Yes.
The NFL is returning in 2 weeks, and from like March to I guess now, the whole like quarantine and I guess when the coronavirus, it's gone by really fast. And
I don't know about that.
Really, it's gone fast for me.
Okay.
And like, I don't know if like fast is the right word to use, but I think it's like football is just getting like sooner and sooner. You're not realizing how soon it's going to be, just because there's other things in this world, and like how 2020 is just so crazy. How our main focus, because you know in the past I've been just waiting for football, and now that like you know football is in 2 weeks, I'm like, wow, it's already about to.
I do think that's the case because the NBA is back it's at a time that we're not used to.
Yeah.
Because usually from June till like training camp, that feels like an eternity.
You're right. And the only thing
the finals end, and then it's just baseball.
Right.
But baseball is like the slowest paced sport.
Right. Baseball is great, but
I love baseball, but
yeah, no, that makes sense. So 2 weeks. What is it? The 10th is the first game.
Yeah, it's Chiefs Texans.
And that's going to be at Arrowhead Stadium. It should be a good game. First want to say I'm excited. I think the Texans are a little underrated heading into the year at this point.
People just think they suck because they have a sucky GM who traded away Hopkins for a bag of Doritos and a soda, but
yeah.
Their team, and they did lose DJ Reader, which is also fair. But they replaced them both with serviceable, I guess, Cooks. Cooks is a good player. I mean, his concussions, yes, that's a very fair thing to say about him. And then they drafted Ross Blacklock, which I actually like that pick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, GMing and roster-wise, they're not the best, but I still think they're going to be a good team. I think they will be in contention for the South. Some people have them finishing third, just like outright third. And I'm just like, they have Deshaun Watson, a top 5 quarterback in this league, and you think they're going to be that low.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. But Chiefs are going to come out and stomp them, I think.
I think so,
if I'm being honest. It's in their home turf.
You know, though, that, like, it's going to be such a fun game to watch. Like, it's going to be so jazzed to have NFL back.
Well, I mean, the NFL coming on schedule is kind of like a unspoken victory for, like, all of, like, society.
Yeah.
Because that means we somewhat made it somewhere. Now, obviously, you would hope that it was all fans could be there. Yeah. And I'd rather take a flawed product than no product at all.
Oh, me too.
Being honest with you. And I understood the reality of that back in like April when people were mad that the NBA wasn't going to have fans. And I was like, guys, do you want basketball or do you not want basketball?
Mm-hmm.
Football is going to be the weirdest though without fans. I will say that.
It will. I wonder what they're going to do with like the added crowd noise and if it's going to seem any sort of normalcy, how the players are going to react to it. It should be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of teams in training camp are experimenting with it.
Yeah.
And seeing how it is, and a lot of them are like, oh, this feels weird. But I think continuity will be a very, vital factor in team success this year.
I completely agree.
So like teams that were good last year more than likely will be good this year.
Yep.
And teams that have a good culture, no new coaching,
right,
yada yada.
Yeah. But to go back to kind of what we were going to talk about, we want to, me and Sam, with the season starting, present to you guys, I guess, a little bit in a way predictions, but it's going to be our team that we think is going to be, I guess, the most surprising. Is that it?
Breakout, I guess.
Yeah.
Just a team we think is going to be better than they were last year. A lot better than they were last year. So
right. And
probably
then kind of a downfall team, a team that we think is going to be much worse than last year. Not much worse, but just worse than last year.
Disappointing. Yeah.
Right. And then we're going to do it on the player side. We're going to do, a player that we think is going to break out on the offensive and defensive side.
Yes.
I got that right. Okay. So, Sam, let me ask you first. What team do you think is going to be, I guess, surprisingly good? I don't know what the term we want to use for that is. A breakout team in a way? I don't know what the term. But
let's use breakout.
Okay.
I think that's a good one.
Okay.
I have the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
Now, I was extremely high on this Colts team last year.
I was too, and then
Andrew Luck retired.
That happened like
like a week ago to the year. Yeah.
It was like a couple of days ago. It was
really? Oh,
yeah.
I remember I was in my dorm room when that happened. It just hit me like bad.
Well, because I had Luck winning MVP.
Oh yeah, he was in my
and
top picks,
I had the Colts in the AFC Championship. I was very high on them.
I think I had the Texans. I think I had the Texans winning division with Watson MVP. I think that's what
I had the Colts with Luck winning MVP. But it just goes to show we were high on them.
Yes, very much so. And reason being why I'm high on the Colts is, well, let's just put it bluntly, Phillip Rivers. Now I know he wasn't that great last year, but let me just say this. That offense was a train wreck. His offensive line was god-awful. His offensive coordinator was not doing him any favors, and he just had to do what he could do. And the Chargers essentially kind of just moved on from him. And I think him in Indianapolis is such a nice fit. Frank Reich is going to coach the hell out of Rivers. He's going to be behind quite possibly the best O-line in football. Would you say that? Yeah. The Saints, the Eagles, the Cowboys up there? Yeah. Up with those guys. And he's never had that before.
Yeah.
I just want to see him feast with that. And he's got a nice offensive arsenal around him. The running back group is amazing. Taylor, Mack, Hines, that's a really nice trio of backs. The receiving core isn't that bad either. T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, and then you got Jack Doyle at tight end. I just like their offense's outlook. And obviously, if it was Luck, it'd be a lot better. And, whatever. We can live with that.
Yeah.
But then you go to the defensive side of the ball. And their defense was somewhat underwhelming last year, I guess you could say, because they were so good the year prior. And, Darius Leonard, still a stud. They added Javon Kinlaw to that defensive line. Justin Houston was really underrated last year. I guess you could say their secondary is a bit of a concern, but I think this offense and this defense are very well balanced that they can possibly come on top in the AFC South. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I might pick them as my division winner, but I might lean Texans. I'm not sure yet.
No Tennessee love.
I'm not that high on the Titans this year, if I'm being honest with you. I think people are going to figure out them really easily.
Well, that's where we disagree, Sam.
Dude, their pass rush is horrible.
Um,
Except Jeffrey Simmons is a stud. I will say that. I think he's gonna be great.
yeah. For my breakout team, I have the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yikes.
So the only thing I don't like about this Raiders team is they play in such a loaded division. You have the Chiefs, you have the Broncos, you have the Chargers. Like, even though I'm not that high on the Chargers, their defense is just ridiculous.
Unreal. Yeah, it's unreal.
Where they could kind of carry that team throughout the season and win some games. But the Raiders, I just think, are so underrated. I think they're going to get second in the division. A lot of people disagree. A lot of people have them finishing fourth. The thing is, I think Kansas City is obviously going to get first place. They are fantastic and always have been fantastic and will be for the years to come. Denver, to me, I loved Denver, and it would not surprise me whatsoever if that team gets second. And their offense, even defense, is just really good. It's just to me, they scream 2019 Browns to me. I think they're overhyped. I love Drew Lock. He was one of my favorite QBs coming out of the draft class. But I think we could be looking at a situation similar to Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, to where he went 4-1 as a starter in his rookie year. He looked good, but could, regress a little bit as his sophomore year and kind of disappoint. Mm-hmm. But to take the focus off of Denver, you look at the Raiders. John Gruden went from 4-12, what was it, to 7-9 last year? I think it was.
Yeah.
Maybe 8-8. I think it was something like that.
It wasn't 8-8 because I remember they could get in the playoffs if they were 8-8.
Okay, so 7-9. But you saw, to me, you saw immediate improvement from year 1 under Gruden to year 2 under Gruden. I think that even though he is very overpaid, I think that some people aren't realizing that he's still a top-tier coach in the NFL. I love John Gruden. You look at the Raiders roster, and to me, Josh Jacobs is going to have an on-year sophomore year. I think Derek Carr at this point is honestly underrated. Derek Carr, if you look at what he's done statistically over the last couple of seasons, now everyone wants to look at what he did in his MVP campaign season. What was that, in 2016? Obviously, he hasn't had a season to match that, but last year throwing 21 touchdowns, I think it was 6 interceptions. That's a good touchdown to interception ratio. And obviously people are going to discredit him not being able to throw the ball downfield. And obviously the addition of Henry Ruggs adds a little bit of uncertainty in that aspect. But I do think that Henry Ruggs coming to that offense, I don't think he's going to be the best rookie receiver, but I do think he's going to bring a impact and be a, key part of that offense to where he's still making big plays and he's still getting good yardage. So I like Ruggs, I like Carr, I like Jacobs, and you have someone like Hunter Renfrow. Not talked about, but I think he had like 500 yards, maybe a little bit less, and like a couple touchdowns. I think that he could really progress in his sophomore year. That offensive line is fabulous in Vegas. The only thing I'm not a really big fan of is the defensive side of the ball, but I do think that they still have some key parts to where it is not a awful defense per se. I think that they're going to do a lot better than they did in 2019, and I think that the upward track of John Gruden getting better every year is going to continue. And to me, I have them as a 9-10 win team. Their schedule is really not that tough. Obviously, I just talked about them being in a tough division, but if you look at outside the division, there's not – I wouldn't say it's like a very tough division. They have a lot of winnable games for them. I'm excited to see this team, and I think – and obviously, I can't believe I forgot this. Darren Waller, absolutely stud. I don't know what happened there. Easily top 5, in my opinion, a top 4 tight end last year. He's only going to get better. I'm excited for this Vegas team, and I think that going to Vegas, obviously leaving Oakland and the whole fan base in Oakland sucks, but Vegas being a super big market team, a little bit of a new start, playing in the new stadium. It sucks they didn't have the draft there that year, though.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to work out. I love this Vegas team. I think they're going to do really good.
Well, there's a name on the offensive side of the ball that you didn't mention. That guy is Bryan Edwards.
Bryan Edwards.
Do you not know who Bryan is?
No, I know who Bryan Edwards, but I want you to elaborate why you are.
Well, he reminds me a lot. This is going to sound like high praise, but he reminds me
when it's Raiders, it's acceptable.
Davante Adams in college. So, and you know who Devontae Adams' quarterback was in college?
Tell me, Sam. Tell me, Sam.
Derek Carr. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Bryan Edwards was the number one receiver behind Darren Waller this year. He could get more targets than Ruggs because I think Carr just likes Edwards' prototype as a receiver more than Ruggs. And I also think he can play better with Edwards than Ruggs, if that makes sense. And I don't know, man. It's my thing with the Raiders is if their defense is just concerning to me. And I was one of the very few people that liked the Damon Arnett pick, but everyone else on that defense is kind of shaky. You know, Max Crosby's rookie year was very overrated to me. Like,
really?
If you look at his like pressure and sack numbers, they all came from like this very small like window. And so like over the whole season, he wasn't that good. But in that like little time, I don't remember the exact stat. I'm sorry, but if I could find it, I would relay it.
I guess we forgive you.
I'm sorry, guys, but it was kind of an overrated rookie campaign. Was it better than Farrell? Yes, it was better than their 4th overall pick, which I still don't know why they took him 4th overall. But
it's the genius of Mike Mayock.
They did add nice linebackers. I mean, they just traded for Raekwon McMillan for some reason when they just signed Littleton and Kwiatkowski. But their division is so tough.
That's like, and the thing is, if they didn't play in that division, I'd be even more high on them. And like, I would be like, easily, in my opinion, a playoff team. But it sucks that they have to play in such a tough division.
Thing is, I think if they had a better quarterback, they'd be a lock for the playoffs, probably.
I get it.
Like if they swapped out Derek Carr for someone like who's like a good starter.
Ryan Tannehill.
Nah, Tannehill's like on the same
Tannehill is
tier.
going to have a monster
year next year. I know you're his twin, but you don't need to.
What about like Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins, I think, would do good in Oakland.
I'm just throwing out like
LA or Las Vegas. Oh my God.
You're 0 for 2.
I was 0 for 2. Or Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford would be amazing in Las Vegas. But their division is so tough. I could see them finish last, but I could also see them finishing second.
Oh, they're finishing second.
There's no realm of possibility where they finish.
So I love doing this on a podcast. Whenever I make a prediction, I always say we're going to come back to this when it happens. Mm-hmm. So if Vegas gets second place, we're going to play this clip for everyone. And I want everyone to acknowledge that my prediction came true.
I am going to agree with you that they will come second or third. I think the Chargers will be last.
All right, I guess
I just think the Broncos offense is so talented. I love this Broncos team, man. But I think they are being way overhyped.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's similar to Cleveland. But I'm super high in Cleveland this year. So
thing is, Broncos offense is very intriguing. If Locke isn't what he looked like he was, then yeah, I think the Raiders will be second. But if he is, then yeah, I think the Broncos are easily second because their defense is better than easily better than the Raiders defense.
I would agree.
And if Locke is what he looks like in those 5 games, then yeah, I think they're gonna be second and maybe might get a postseason berth, might just miss out. We'll see. Because they're a big thing that's important this year is continuity. Like I said. And the Broncos don't have that on the offensive side of the ball because they just got Pat Shurmur, and the Raiders have had Gruden for a while. So,
my boy.
All right, disappointing team. I guess I'll just go on here. I have the Minnesota Vikings. You scoff at me, Kurt?
No, I want you to explain.
Let me just say this. that thing about continuity. You know how I said continuity?
Yeah, we heard you.
That the Vikings on the defensive side of the ball do not have continuity. At corner, they are all literally second year, third year rookies. It's rough. And I'm not going to put a ton of stock in that because, it's a shortened off season. I know Cam Dantzler has looked really good in camp, but I'm not putting a ton of stock in that. And then their defensive line is atrocious. If you look at their defensive line, it's Danielle Hunter, who is a stud. I have loved Hunter. He's awesome. But you lose Everson Griffin, you lose Linval Joseph, and Michael Pierce opts out. Oh, God. Who's left? Shamar Stephen. Who's the other one? Odin Igbo. And who's the last one? I don't know. He's not good. The defensive line, I think they should double down on defensive line in the next draft if this is what it's going to look like. And I'm not confident in it. And I don't know, man. Their offense is going to be mostly the same as last year. It's going to be a good offense because it's Kubiak, but you never know because Stefanski left. And
they lost my boy Stefanski.
But Kubiak was there last year, so
yeah.
You never know. So it's not that big of a deal with the continuity there. And the personnel is mostly the same. Their offensive line is still kind of rough, which is a bit of a concern. And if Kirk plays at his level as he did last year, because he was good last year. He was really good.
Yeah.
And Dalvin Cook is healthy, and Justin Jefferson looks the part, like he should.
Yeah.
Then maybe. But, you trade away Stephon Diggs, who is amazing, and you have Justin Jefferson, and it's a rookie and a shortened off season, and now you only have Adam Thielen, who's your, dedicated wide receiver that has, good chemistry. And, he's getting up there in age. Kyle Rudolph's getting up there in age, even though Irv Smith has looked nice. And I don't know, man. It was hard to pick a disappointing team.
Yeah, it was.
If I'm being honest with you. I also thought about the Rams, but the Rams still have good enough talent on their roster to win, the same amount of games as they did last year. I just think the Vikings are going to decrease in the wins column, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
Because I also think the Lions are going to be better. I think the Bears are going to be better.
Right. And it's a tough division.
I think the Packers will still be on top. So I don't know, man. They could prove me wrong very easily, and I wouldn't be shocked because they are a very well-coached team, but they've just lost a lot, and they're probably going to lose Anthony Harris soon too because they can't pay him, and Harrison Smith's contract is looming as well. So, and they're going to have to pay Dalvin Cook, which sounds like what they're going to do, and I don't know, man. It's just their outlook is concerning, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're good. But I kind of am expecting regression from them.
Makes sense. All right.
What about you?
So my disappointing team, you have to hear me out while I talk the whole thing, okay?
All right. I will lay back.
So I have as mine the Arizona Cardinals. And it's not because because I think the term we have been using is getting worse. And obviously I'm not thinking they're going to get worse because I think they had done a lot over the offseason in the draft to get better.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole thing is when I think the correct term I want to use now is most overrated. And in this instance, it was still super hard to pick a most overrated team because you look at a bunch of teams in the NFL. There's a lot of good teams out there. It was really hard to choose this one. But with Arizona, I do think they're going to get better, but I still have them finishing fourth in that division.
Okay.
I think Kyler is going to have a great sophomore year, and I love Kyler Murray. And obviously, the fit with Kingsbury is trying to think of a good chemistry link. Like, you know what I mean? It just meshes really well.
Belichick, Brady. I don't know. I can't think
Yeah.
of anything.
I was going to say like Luke and Layla.
McVay, Jared. I don't know.
Yeah, it just works. It just works.
It gels. I don't know.
So, and then obviously you add DeAndre Hopkins, top 3 wide receiver, and I think that's really good. But to me, especially on the offensive line, a lot of questions with Arizona. And I think when you have Kyler, though, he can kind of get away with having not so good of an offensive line because the man can just scramble for days and he doesn't have to just sit back in the pocket.
Yes.
But when I'm evaluating a football team, I love when a team is good, when it have a great offensive line. And Arizona, to me, doesn't have a great offensive line to the point where I think that, you know, teams, people that are having them in playoff contention, I'm just like, I don't see that happening. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, they have some very good players on the team, like Isaiah Simmons, who they just drafted, Budda Baker, Chandler Jones, a lot of good pieces on that. But I think there's still a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball to where I'm like, I don't understand when some people are putting them at 9 or 10 wins. So to me, it wasn't really a case when I was deciding this on, you know, do I think they're going to get worse? Because not to say it's nearly impossible, but I don't think the average fan thinks Arizona is going to get worse record-wise. But my whole thing is I think that they're not going to live up to the expectations that some people are putting them at. And it was so hard to pick a team that I think would regress because you can make so many cases for why teams are going to do well. And I think a big part, you know, of this upcoming season is who can stay healthy, which teams can stay healthy. That's going to be a huge thing. And it has been a huge thing for years in the past. Because if teams can stay healthy, there's going to be so many good teams in the NFL. That's why I'm super excited for this upcoming season.
Well, there's also the thing that who doesn't get coronavirus?
Yeah.
If you get COVID and you wipe out a good portion of your team, you're the Chiefs. You get Eric Fisher gets coronavirus. Pat Mahomes gets coronavirus.
Yeah.
You know, that week is lost. At least 2 weeks are lost. Like, what can you do?
One thing I will say,
teams lose out on the playoffs because of COVID. You never know. And
one thing I will say, though, is the NFL has, at least so far, done a really good job of having no positive cases. What was it? No players had it. 8 people in the whole personnel had it. Out of
like out of 50,000 tests. Yeah,
it was
nuts.
Like a lot of – because I think we give a lot of discredit towards Goodell and to the whole league, but I think we have to give credit to when credit's due.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, sure. And on the Cardinals, I mean, I don't have them like going 10-6. I think their ceiling is like 8-8. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think they're going to go like 7-9.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I think their offense is going to be great. You know, also a thing to note is they have Kenyon Drake for the whole year instead of old man David Johnson. And their defense has pieces that actually fit into it now. Like Isaiah Simmons can play the role that Hassan Reddick was playing out of position for
Isaiah Simmons can literally just stick him on the field and he can do anything.
I love Isaiah Simmons. He was my guy. And they can actually play people in position now. And they actually added to that line. But all right, let's move on to our breakout players on each side of the ball. Okay. And we should probably move through these pretty quickly because it seems like
we already messed up on the 30 minutes. It's hard. But it's okay.
We always ramble. We ramble. We get good content.
We do it for you guys.
Yes. I guess we'll start on offense then. And I'll start us off. For the offensive side of the ball, I have Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I do also think that Chase Claypool could break out in a way, but we're not doing rookies. And I just love how the Steelers draft wide receiver. They draft and develop wide receivers probably the best out of any team in the league. And I think most people would agree with that.
Yeah.
They're ridiculous. And they're having Deontay Johnson do the Antonio Brown role. And he's been fulfilling it. I'm just going to say it. He was very good last year as a rookie. And I just think he's going to feast. There's really no reason behind it. I just think with Ben Roethlisberger back, I think he's going to have a good rapport with him because he's playing in that role that, most teams are going to be looking towards Juju because Juju's the best wide receiver on that team. That frees up opportunities for Claypool and Deontay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Juju will be on the Steelers past 2020. So I think Deontay is going to take over as their number one, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think they drafted Claypool to take over for Juju because Juju is a free agent and they have to pay a lot of people next year. So,
hey, we will see.
All right, who do you got?
So for the offensive side of the ball, I have my draft crush, TJ Hawkinson. So 2019, going to take you back on a little bit of a memory. We're sitting, in case you guys don't know, Washington football fan over here, sitting at 15. No chance we're taking Hawkinson at 15. He's going to get drafted at 8 with Detroit. But I was like, look, we need a tight end. It would be amazing if he somehow just teams found out something wrong with him, but it turned out nothing was wrong with him, and we got him at 15. It didn't happen. But to go back to why I love him, you look at the Detroit Lions last year, they were a train wreck, especially at the QB position, having Matt Stafford out for basically the whole year. Rocking with my boy Jeff Driscoll, though. Love that man. But you get Matt Stafford back for the whole year if he can stay healthy, who is a top 10 quarterback in the league. TJ Hawkinson feasted week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
And you cannot tell me that having a Matthew Stafford who loves targeting tight ends, he's going to do great. I love the fit there in Detroit. I think he's going to have a great year. I think Detroit's going to do better as a whole, but I think a main centerpiece of why they're going to do great falls between Stafford and Hawkinson. I think Golladay is going to do great at the wide receiver position, but I think that when you're looking at taking into consideration, I think he's capable of being the, number 1 or number 2, I guess, targeted guy on that team.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you with, draft night. Guys don't know, Green Bay Packers fan. We were picking 12th, and I was there might be a chance that he's there at 12. You never know.
I remember screaming at my TV. I was like, Detroit, don't take him. They took him.
I love TJ. I loved him. And then when he went to a division rival, my heart just sunk. It was like Justin Jefferson going to the Vikings this year. My heart, it just sunk. But nonetheless, yes, I agree with everything you just said about TJ. TJ's a stud. Now, I will say that the Cardinals were absolute shit at guarding tight ends last year. So I wouldn't put too much stock in that Cardinals game, but he is awesome. I drafted him in my Dynasty League, so I got
good
faith
investment.
in him.
Good investment.
I got faith in him. All right, on to the defensive side of the ball. Now, I have Jamel Dean of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, you may be wondering why, because the Buccaneers' pass defense last year was bad. I'm pretty sure it was last in the league, if I'm not mistaken. But it might have moved up to like 30th or something as the year went on. But
just wasn't good.
It was not good. But that's also a testament to all of their corners were either first or second years. It was Sean Murphy-Bunting, Carlton Davis, and Jamel Dean. And then their safeties were just bad. And so, they had no help on the back end. It was literally just a young group in the secondary and then that stout run defense and pass rush. But as the year progressed, you really saw Dean just flourish. He looked he has athletic upside of like guys like Jair Alexander or Denzel Ward. And I think he's going to be huge for this Bucks defense down the stretch this year. He really came along nicely. And, you know, I'm just going to say this. I think the Bucks won't win their division, but I think they have a better chance at going to the Super Bowl than the Saints. But I think that's a big testament because these young guys I have faith in developing over the year. And, you know, I don't know. I love him. I think he's pretty good.
Glad to hear it. All right. So for me, I have my guy, Montez Sweat of the Washington football team. And yes, come on, say it. I'm being biased. But when you look at the in-depth analysis, there's so many reasons to say that this guy is the most or one of the most underrated players in the league. He's going to have a breakout year next year. The guy had 7 sacks, and he played in a very flawed 3-4 defense with Greg Minuski. And it was just a total train wreck for the Washington football team last year. I think me and you both can agree to that, especially me coming from a fan perspective. But there's a lot that's changed about this team. And while a lot of people say his production's going to, you know, demolish or go down a little bit with the likes of Chase Young being on the team now and a very fantastic front 7, I don't think that's the case. I think that, yeah, you're going to see Chase Young just ball out because that man is just unreal. But Montez Sweat, the front 7 for Washington is just phenomenal. He's still going to do his thing in a 4-3 because last year in that 3-4, he was dropping back being a linebacker, and there was no reason for him to drop back.
He was playing that Preston Smith role, bro.
It was – I was like, Greg Minuski, what are you doing? But like I said, Jack Del Rio is now the defensive coordinator for the team. They switched to a 4-3. Him on the edge is just going to be fantastic. I think he has the chance to get double-digit sacks for the year. I think that he is a phenomenal talent out of Mississippi State. He fell in the draft. He came to us at 26. A lot of people had him in the top 15. Even in the top 10, you know, a lot of people thought that he was going to go like originally 15 to Washington, 17 to the Giants. But he went 26, and I'm happy that he's on our team. I think that he's going to do great. I think that the situation that Washington has put him in is fantastic. He's looked good in training camp. I think he's going to have a great year for us or for them. I'm not going to be biased.
You can be biased, bro.
Yeah.
We've literally referenced our teams like 5 times in this pod.
Yeah.
But like you said with Hawkinson, you said, God, can he just show something that say that something's wrong with him and then he falls to us, but there's actually nothing wrong with him. That's exactly what happened to Sweat on draft day. Because I remember like, was it a few weeks before the draft, a report came out that he had a heart condition, and apparently people got afraid of that and he fell down the board. And I always thought there's someone on the Raiders who has that, and it didn't affect him at all either. And now Sweat didn't drop to the 3rd round like he did, but he did drop, and he shouldn't have. I love Sweat coming out. I wanted the Green Bay to take him at 12. I liked him more than Gary, who we took at 12. But yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Your front is so nice. So nice. Too bad your back end is garbage, but
come on.
You know, Chase Young's he's gonna be defensive rookie of the year, like more than likely. I mean, the only other person who could probably contend with him is Isaiah Simmons if the Cardinals are good. Hey, don't put thumbs down for Simmons. He's a stud.
I like Simmons, but he's not to my boy Chase Young's level.
Dude, Chase Young is gonna be so good. He's gonna be so good. Like, and Montez Sweat, he's a very nice compliment. 100% agree with you. You're not a homer for this one because
I'm glad.
I very much agree.
So we hope that we kept that within 30 minutes, but we probably didn't. Because
it definitely didn't, because I think we started at 40 and it's
look,
30.
look, guys, our schedule of 2 a week won't change because of this. We're still going to be bringing you 2 podcasts a week. Look, when the NFL starts, this podcast can be booming. It is going to be so fun. I'm excited. I'm just going to ramble each week because here's what we plan on doing is having it like an episode Tuesday where we talk about the whole weekend about NFL. And then Friday we'll have another episode where like we could preview the NFL. We could talk about what happened during the week, talk about some other news and other sports because we are all sports culture. So very excited to have that. But like I'm excited. We're so close. The NBA is going to be happening then. MLB is going to be happening. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, Tuesdays, main NFL, just mostly NFL stuff. And then Fridays is everything else, essentially. I mean,
we'll see.
It's exciting. Now, you say you're going to ramble and you want to stay under 30 minutes?
I'll ramble.
I don't know about that one, bro.
Guys,
you're going to get on a giant rant about how Del Rio is underplaying Montez Sweat. Or how
he's supposed to get double-digit sacks. Why does he only have 1 so far?
Or how Haskins looks like a stud, or how the offensive line can't protect him. And
look, all I know is that it's going to be a wild and a fun NFL season.
Or you and Sully are just going to debate about Giants, Reds, or football team all day long.
Look, so if you're listening, Washington is going to finish above New York next year.
You're going to bet on that?
Might have to. So, Sully,
I will set up a bet with you on that right now.
You heard it here, folks. Me and Sam are betting on it next year. But thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Make sure you guys are leaving a like and a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you guys are subscribing on Apple Podcasts, doing whatever on Spotify. You know, Sam's the Spotify expert.
I hate you.
5-star
review.
That's what it is. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you later this week.
Bye.